Okay, this is the video for chapter 3, lesson 4, dividing rational numbers. So you can go ahead and pull out your study guide. I'm going to go over a few concepts here with you, and then we will do a few practice problems, okay? So when you're dividing fractions, let's say that we're doing 2/3 divided by 3/2. The rule for dividing is to multiply the inverse. So what does that mean by an inverse? Well, an inverse of a fraction is just switching the numerator and denominator. So that means this would be 2/3. So the inverse of 4/6 would be 6/4, right? So when I say the inverse, that just means reversing the numerator and the denominator. So when we divide a fraction, we multiply the inverse of what's being divided, meaning this would become 2/3. So, so when we're working these out, if I have, and then we would just work it out as a multiplication problem. So this would be 4/9. So if I had a problem that was 3/4 divided by 8 or 5/8, then I would be multiplying the inverse, meaning changing this to 8/5, and then I do it like a multiplication problem. And so remember, when we multiply, we can simplify also, right, by cross canceling. So this would be 1, this would be 2, and this would be 6/5. And I'd like for us still to turn our improper fractions into mixed numbers. So this would be 1 1/5 as our answer. Okay, let's talk about whole numbers in our fractions. So when we have mixed numbers that we're dividing. So if I have -6/2/5 divided by 2 1/5, we first need to change these into improper fractions before we do the inverse, okay? So I'm going to make this -32/5 divided by still 11/5. Now I can multiply the inverse. So now I would have -32/5 times 5/11. And then when I work this out, I can cancel my 5s. And then all I would have left is -32/11. And then when I work that out, I have -2 and 10/11. -2 and 10/11. That's my final answer after I've changed it back into a mixed number. So I think that makes sense. And I think you've practiced this before. So I'm going to let you work on your study guide. Go ahead and do 1 through 8 and check back in when you are done. Okay, let's check your answers. So you can go ahead and pause and check your answers here. Make this bigger so you can see it. And then let's go down to the bottom or the back side of your study guide. Now we're going to incorporate having some variables. So dividing algebraic fractions. So you can divide algebraic fractions just as you are dividing numerical fractions. But the nice thing is when we have variables, if we see repeating variables, they represent the same number. And so when we see that, we can cancel. So taking a look at this example, find, I'm just going to do it over here. So don't even look at this stuff. I'm just going to talk through this as I'm doing it over here, okay? So find 4 over QRS divided by 10 over QS. So the first step we have to do is multiply by the inverse. So now we're going to put the denominator on top and the numerator on the bottom. Now here's the cool thing. If we were multiplying like 1 over Q times Q over 2, if Q is repeated, that represents the same number. So if Q meant 4, then I'd have 1 over 4 times 4 over 2. Well, anytime I see the same number diagonally across, I can cross cancel, right? So if I see the same variable, I can also cross cancel. So I'm going to use red here. And I've got Q and Q, I can cross cancel, and then S and S. And when I cancel both variables out here, that doesn't mean it's 0. It means that it's just 1. Then over here, I've got 4 and 10. So 4 and 10 can be simplified by 2. So this is 2 and this is 5. And when I multiply across, I have 2 times 1, which is just 2. And then R times S, or no, R times 5. So yeah, be careful that you write your numbers carefully so you don't think it's a letter. So 5 times R is 5R, and it's 2 over 5R as my answer. And if I check my answer here, it's correct, right? Okay, so let's take a look at a few of these. I've got 2x over y divided by 3 over y. So when I write this out, I have 2x over y times y over 3. Because I've got y and y, those can cancel. Now I'm left with 2x over 3. Okay, let's try number 2. So I've got c over 4d times 8d over 3. Now, I have d and d, cancel and cancel, and then 4 and 8. So simplify and simplify. So I have 2 times c over 3. Remember, we like to write our numbers first and then our letters. So I'm going to write this as 2c over 3. And that's my answer. Number 3, 4a over b. And I'm going to do the inverse. So times b over 2 times a times c. So b and b cancel. And then a and a cancel, and then I've got 4 and 2. So this is divided by 2 is 2, divided by 2 is 1. So I've got 2 over 1c. And if there's only 1c, then it would just be 2 over c. And you don't even have to write that 1 because 1c is the same thing as 1. Okay, what happens if I have a square? And we haven't really talked much about this. So I think I'm going to just have you guys mark this off because we haven't even talked about exponents yet. So don't know why they're bringing that up. But let's take a look at maybe number 8, 14, 16, 18, maybe 9. Let's do those 5 problems and then we'll check back in, okay? So work 8, 9, 14, 16, and 18, and then we'll check our answers together. Okay, so let's check our answers here. Some of them I showed my work, and then these I did on paper and then put my answer on there. So a trick I'd like to show you with writing the letter L is to write it like this. So if you have 3L, write it like that so you don't think it's 31, okay? So that way you can distinguish between your letter L and the number 1. All right, that's all I'm going to do with you on the study guide. You can do the rest of them if you'd like a little more practice, but I won't be able to check my answers with you.